After a string of major announcements for the channel, it is my esteemed pleasure to celebrate 20 months as a content creator and 1 year as a streamer with the latest milestone of my merch store. I'm open for business on my main video channels through Teespring and have set up shop on my Let's Plays through Streamlabs, available in both men's and women's designs. So, whether for the Mind's Eye movie reviews or Mind Games Scream streams, Inkarnate's got you covered. So, check out what the Mind's Eye's got in store. Well, Memorial Day has come and gone, so that can only mean one thing. Beaches, beaches, barbecue, beer, and bubes.
Oh, it's a lady.
And I ain't just talking about the ones for the ladies.
Oh, look at my titties. Oh.
Yeah, well, that's disgusting.
But also, scary movies. Yes, horror fans, it's that time again.
For everybody to come aboard now!
But also, for your Horror Host Inkarnate to provide suggestions on films fit for the season. As you know, I don't do these watch lists just to recommend any old horror flick. There ain't no basic beaches here. We got standards up in this piece. Yeah, I could go the easy route and just mention Jaws and every other sharksploitation movie in the history of ever. Nah, kid, that's basic. You're probably expecting the predictable suggestions of redundant Friday the 13th films.
Nah, son.
That's basic. If you think you're gonna find those boring Purge Regurge movies that thought they had the goods to compete with summer blockbusters, until they ultimately fizzled out into irrelevancy from whence they came, and torture myself from the number first film until movie number infinity, well...
Psych! That's the wrong number!
Basic. Here at the Mind's Eye, we hold ourselves to a higher standard, by actually having one. And speaking of, I'd like the standard set from the Valentine's Day episode called Heartache, where I gave you Magnificent Bastards not just a generic top 5 watch list of romance horror, basic, but a whopping 6 suggestions. So, in keeping with my deep-seated need to overcompensate, I'm not just gonna give you Party Animals 6 recommendations of Heatwave Horror, but we gonna sweeten the pot as we fire up the pit. Just to show you how lit scary movies can be during the Sunshine Solstice, each proposed recommendation will fit into a specific subgenre. Therefore, in the proud seasonal tradition that includes horror watch lists for Halloween, winter, even romance horror, I present to you Dead Heat Inkarnate's watch list of summer horror. But first, a shout out to the sponsors. Think of the power to tune out the whole world placed in your hands. Now think again, because Jabra headsets puts that power in your ears. Listen closely. From workout earbuds to Bluetooth music headsets and office hearing devices. So, if other brands play your music sounding like a broken record, march to the beat of a different tune with Jabra. If you're an HD snob like me, you probably buy Samsung for all your major electronics. Catch up on your favorite horror classics on one of their Ultra HD TVs. Watch one of Scream Factory's Blu-rays on their 4K players. Keep up with updates from 80s horror documentary In Search of Darkness on a high-end tablet. Subscribe to your favorite YouTuber through one of their Galaxy phones. I have so many Samsung devices, I've always thought they should be paying me. Well, now they can, and you can help. If you use the link in the description for either Samsung or Jabra purchases, it'll help the channel out tremendously. With the promotional considerations accounted for, it's on with the show.
What you want, Ed Hardy? Say it.
We begin with what I believe should be the definitive class of summer horror, the backwoods. Pumpkinhead would have reached cult status on its own as a creature feature, but it's so much more. When a small town store clerk's son is accidentally run over by punk teenagers, the grief-stricken father's world comes crashing down around him. While the teens flee the scene, the father's grief boils over into bloodlust. The countryside hides many a secret, and the father, Ed Harley, has just the one up his sleeve to get even with his son's killer. His thirst for vengeance drives him to ink a Faustian bargain with the witch that dwells in no man's land. Only too late does Ed Harley learn the terrible price that must be paid on the road to revenge, enduring the toll firsthand, even if it's from his secondhand distance. His yearning for payback comes at the cost of his soul when he raises one too many demons that he can't put down. For my money, the backwoods subclass, though rarely showcased, makes for such a perfect setting, not just for summer thrills, but for the greater horror genre itself. For a catalog of fiction that explores the dark side of the human soul, the limits of morality, and the lines that you shouldn't cross, can you ask for a better depiction than a story set on the outskirts of society? In this regard, isolation is depicted not just in terms of space, as in distance from other humans or potential help, but also seclusion in terms of time, in the form of creature comforts or modern technology. The backwoods transports you back to a state where help is no longer a phone call away, GPS won't lead you to safety, and you're cut off from the rest of the world. And that's the danger from your surroundings before the monster hellbent on revenge hunts you down.
How can it be? God, she's a boy.
As protective as Ricky is of socially awkward cousin Angela around boys and child-molesting cooks, once they're shipped off to Sleepaway Camp, he's unable to shield her from high school level bullying. No boys allowed in the girls' bunk. Meet Judy. Judy's a bitch. Judy bullies Angela. Don't be a Judy or a Karen. From here on out, it's good old-fashioned teenage hijinks, a friendly game of America's favorite pastime, lakeshore water sports, unexplained homicide. From the start, every murder is casually brushed off as coincidence, as if they're trying to keep a ghost haunting under wraps or using hush money to cover up misconduct. The way that the adolescents play off of one another brings out the teen in all of us. The killer, meanwhile, brings out the entrails in all the teens. So goes the circle of life. I always find it fascinating how this film's legacy has endured without any real regard to its twist ending. It's almost an afterthought. Personally, I believe that the case for this movie's longevity is because of its collection of eccentric teenagers. Yes, Friday fans, it is possible to have actual characters in your summer slasher flicks that aren't reduced to stereotypes or interchangeable cutouts that are as cardboard as their acting. Don't get me wrong, this movie doesn't shy away from the brutal death scenes that will, curl more than just the hairs on your neck. Believe me, the carpet matches the drapes.
Maybe it's the power trying to come back on.
Yeah, we taking it there. I could address the irony that what put practical effects on the endangered species list was the resurrection of long-extinct terrible lizards. I could name-drop the accolades and the box office that this groundbreaking motion picture collected, but you've heard that story. Basic. I instead prefer to emphasize an often overlooked dot that, to date, has been left unconnected. Jurassic Park joins an exclusive club of horror classics that depicts what fate befalls mortals when they attempt to play God. Just how Frankenstein demonstrated the dangers of controlling life and death, and Godzilla crushed cities beneath his feet when men of science split the atom, when the genetic frontier was tampered with and trampled on to bring fossils back to life, control was unwittingly returned to the wild. And then nature went out of control. Sounds like a horror movie to me. The way that the carnivores are slowly revealed throughout the film is classic movie monster depiction. Even the opening scene with the bird of prey, they don't show the monster but tease mere glimpses, and Jesus, loss of life ensues just from transporting the damn thing.
Damn, nature, you scary!
Spielberg knew exactly what he was doing with setup and payoff. The unseen, then the full screen. I could have gone with the movie that invented the first chart-busting hit with Jaws, but I instead decided to go with the landmark film that reinvented summer blockbusters, raised the stakes of creature features, and revolutionized visual effects for the coming digital age. Don't let the addition of chitterins trick you into believing this is a standard family flick. I mean, nearly 3 decades later, can we all agree how annoying the kids were anyways? I mean, of all the characters from the first film, you didn't see them bringing back the Brats for Part 6 as a selling point, now did you? Looking back, of all the Gothic forefathers to have hit it big in their second time up at bat, I would have never guessed it'd be this piece of Egyptian fiction, but I'm glad it was. Considering the premise of a deceased royal returning from the grave for his reincarnated ladylove, it's ironic that 1930s Mummy was a ripoff of OG Dracula, because in the 90s, what started with the Bram Stoker's Dracula adaptation ended the decade with the Mummy remake. The Brendan Fraser film stuck close to that premise while bringing enough nuance to stand apart from the film that inspired it, such as the appearance of the Magi warriors and the attacking mummies at the end. Unlike its brethren Universal monsters, this film puts its focus more on its heroes than its title creature, while interestingly splitting the Indiana Jones archetype into 2 separate characters, the inquisitive archaeologist and the treasure hunter. While I do share in the common sentiment that this could have been more horror and less of a comedy, it is undeniably an entertaining film. The inclusion of such additions as the 10 Plagues of Egypt definitely ups the ante in terms of the mummy's power and threat level. No matter how modern offerings have watered these beloved cornerstones of fear fiction down to lackluster knockoffs that either can't compete with action films or remain as flavorless as Lifetime melodramas with their shoehorned liberal messaging, it's films like this that bring a new twist to ancient history.
The Mummy. This was a place of sacrifice.
Wow.
It's beautiful.
It still is.
You'll recall my edition of this film in my inaugural watch list of Halloween movies if you've followed me from the jump. If you haven't, you owe me one, so subscribe already. Plus, they're my list, so I'm allowed to double dip. While films like Hostel and Teresa's clumsily handle the American fears of traveling to foreign lands whose customs are unfamiliar to them, The Ruins gets right under the skin to tap that vein. At the behest of 2 sightseers, a pair of couples vacationing in Mexico take a turn off the beaten path, and then things take a turn for the worst, and not even from drinking the water over there. Yeah, worse than that. Arriving at a Mayan temple, the last known location of one of the sightseers' brother, they are quickly joined by distrusting villagers, so aggressive in their warnings to the trespassing travelers that the villagers kill one of them, sending the remaining 5 scurrying up the temple to seek refuge. As much as I love that films are able to nail single location stories such as this, what's great about this movie is that it gets so much mileage out of its setting, as well as drip-feeding you reveals that portray how deep the trouble is that these survivors are in. Kudos to the restlessness in the characters boiling over into paranoia. When you pair that with the fact that, at first, you don't know what you're watching is a creature feature, and what you're in store for is a body horror, the fact that this movie flies under so many people's radar, meanwhile studios keep returning to that well with Saw movies that's already run dry, hurts my soul. But Inkarnate is on the scene to right the wrongs with this refreshing recommendation.
Here's mud in your eye, pal.
The ruins.
I'm not okay. You keep saying I'm okay. I'm not okay.
Why are you dressed like that?
Like what?
Why are you dressed like somebody died?
Wait.
I know. Not only another summer camp movie, but one that isn't a slasher. Who'da thunk? I did. I'da thunk. As the follow-up to the first Addams Family film, it was a bold move to have the villain nanny deceive behind the scenes and ship the childrens off to camp in their own side plot in order to kickstart her main story. While their seeming banishment to the log cabins could have simply served to keep the kids from protecting Uncle Fester from the nanny's greedy mitts, there are plenty of mishaps, antics, and chance encounters waiting for them at Camp Chippewa. Wednesday and Pugsley not only have to contend with how the sickeningly overjoyed spirits of both campers and counselors clash with their goth moodiness, enduring everything from arts and crafts to stage recitals, but they even find a childhood nemesis in the form of Sarah Miller. For the counselors, these two prove harder to handle than the problem children that Warner Brothers have on their hands. Things go from bad to worse for the Addamses when their captivity within camp worsens to confinement within a cabin decked out like a dollhouse. Barbie's dream home might as well have relocated to Elm Street for the torture that so much gleeful cheerfulness compounds them with. Luckily, Wednesday's got a trick up her sleeve as a last-minute heel turn bleeds over into a completely different season when the Injuns stage themselves a Thanksgiving Day massacre. More than any other genre, horror continues to prove that if you're a fan of scary movies, the genre gives you a reason for any season to celebrate. As much as I hope you take advantage of and enjoy these recommended films, if there's one takeaway I would like you to appreciate from this watch list, it's that not just the number of summer horror films I've recommended, but the variety that they come in, quantity and quality. Though the genre will never directly compete with action movies, it warms my cold dead heart to know that when horror's on the block, the summer blockbusters ain't the only show in town. I've been Inkarnate, reminding you, I ain't just a big deal, I'm the real deal. If you're resigned to your fate, time to subscribe to your fears.
Warn your friends. Warn everyone.